This is the Poddy with Serene
and Pearl.
Get it right, Poddy.
It's a magical day on the Trim Healthy podcast. Serene and Pearl are here, and I'm Danny Valdez. And we're glad everyone is still with us after all these years, you beautiful baby birds. You come for education, you come for humor, and you come for an impossibly good time.
And you come because it's a yuck yum here. You know, you come because we are so not what you want.
Yuck.
But guess what? Then you end up loving it.
Yum.
Oh, you do. And you come because we share greater health to every home.
Oh, my goodness. I keep forgetting. We were told to bring that motto, you know, in every time professionally. And she always...
You two irresponsible people aren't going to bring it.
The first day we were assigned, I brought it.
Yeah, of course.
Somebody's turning off right now. Not my home.
Okay, so I have something to bring. I had this epiphany moment the other day in the car, last Sunday morning, in fact, running out the door to go on a hike with some woman at church. We go on a hike every Sunday morning, and we all kind of meet in the church parking lot, and then we go into our hilltop woods, and it's so fun and wonderful. But had this epiphany, but I'm not going to tell you the epiphany yet. I'm going to back up and say I have to prep us because Pearl might be mad at what I'm bringing here. I haven't properly told her fully. I kind of like rushed over what I was going to say on the phone the other day to her.
I approved that.
Yeah, I don't want it to come across the way I'm not meaning it. And it could easily come across like those religious cults that kind of like they preach suffering and you have to shut down all the senses. And if you enjoy anything in life too much, you're not holy anymore. Like you're meant to have a broken, very Spartan life to be closer to God. That's not what I'm bringing here today. Because, you know, here at the Trim Healthy podcast, we're all about vitamin P. We are all about pleasure and delighting in life, you know, and even from a scriptural basis, the joy of the Lord being our strength. You know, I mean, that joy is so much deeper than pleasure. But God himself has given us so many things in life to delight in. He's the one himself that gave us these senses, you know, and he wants us to enjoy things. You are distracting me.
It's almost done.
Danny loves to do artwork with his stickers on his drinks and peel and paste. And did you miss out on a childhood where you did arts and crafts, Danny?
You know, I used to sit down and my little tongue would come out when I would get really into the thing. Did you have a little...
Can you get into our conversation?
Podcast?
No, I'm fully in. I just,
Okay.
I saw a little peek of the cylindricalness and
It's the ADD. He has to color while
is-
listening to, you know how
is
children
so-
at church, certain children have to color in while listening to a message.
This is so, look at
Okay, so
aesthetically.
God himself,
God.
you know, is the God of pleasure. He gave us so many things. You know, just think of music for our ears to delight in. You just think he made our taste buds. There's so many pleasure points all over our body. Like he's made us to be delighted in life.
To be delighted.
But I'm going to look at my teleprompter occasionally because I just wrote down a stream of consciousness before I came here and I want to hit on some points. But the problem is that so many things have become distorted from their original design to bring us pleasure in our modern world that we have to have a Poddy like we are today to put things back into perspective. And because this is a health Poddy, we want to go practical. We're going to start with food because it's huge. And that's the one I had. That was the genre that I had the epiphany in. Because food is not even technically food anymore. It's far from its natural design. I looked up the word food in the Oxford Dictionary, and the definition was any nutritious substance. Okay, so that knocks off most things that most people eat today. Any nutritious substance that people or animals eat or drink or that plants absorb in order to maintain life and growth. Ooh. So nutritious substance to maintain the life force of living things and to enhance growth. That means instead of pushing decay, it's enhancing life. Like I'm like, okay, wow. So we have to talk about the pleasure we get in food because our food's not food.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, think of the fats these days. They're deranged. Now they're free radical poisons. They're not even in the same structure with that God put them in food. flavors that bring us so much delight, that tingle the taste buds that God created, there are chemicals that have now been linked with food addiction. So, I mean, I believe food is meant to be delighted in and enjoyed. Just think of how people did it in the past. They enjoyed food. They got, that satisfaction of fullness, and people have always been created for years with food. But most families grew a garden. Most families, including all the children around the table, ate the vegetables that grew from that garden because that's how they fed the family. They didn't have money to just go buy what they wanted. They had to eat seasonally. What was growing in the garden right now? What could be canned to last through the year? They ate nose to tail. They ate things like oxtail stew and liver and things that probably didn't taste good to every child around the table, but it was like, too bad, maybe you'll enjoy tomorrow's night's meal. Like, it's not all about pleasure. Eat up your peas, Tommy. So we have a whole different perspective now on food and pleasure, and I just want to bring a little insight to that today. And I want to challenge us to rearrange our focus of food to the real definition, to a substance that promotes life and growth. And not to just pleasure alone. There's nothing wrong with the pleasure. Like I said, whole cultures have been created around food, and it's so much a part of the society for generations. But that still involved a lot of food that we would call today, oh, I don't eat that. Oh, I don't eat that. Oh, I don't like that. Oh, that just the texture is weird.
I don't think that you have to worry too much about what, you bringing this today, because we have spent potty after potty after potty delighting in food and celebrating it.
Okay, but I just because I'm going to go deep and high, I just want to,
But there's a caveat.
Yeah. We can focus on the pleasure down the line, but it shouldn't be like the first couple of reasons for our relationship with food and how we choose food. Because pleasure will come. Maybe not at every meal, but it will come. And I'm a foodie, right? Pearl, I love to create. I love to cook. I like to wine and dine. I don't drink wine, but I love to taste it. Like, so if in another world, I would have loved to have been a sommelier, because I like to, detect all the different nuances. So I'm all about trying to make something pleasurable. But as a foodie, I would say, for me, the first two reasons for me eating and my relationship with food, the first two reasons that come out of my head, just bam, bam, are body composition. That's the first reason I eat, to create a certain body composition.
And what is that body composition, Serene?
Lean muscle mass.
Yeah.
Lean muscle mass, lean muscle mass, lean muscle mass. And maintaining a certain amount of body fat as a woman. I want that. But I think body composition in every single meal and snack, besides from 98% of my diet, I think body composition, and then I think performance. I'm not like some professional athlete, but I train, and I think performance, because performance is part of my body composition.
Do you also think performance for life, though?
Performance for energy, performance for being a happy woman in my home, performance so I don't sugar crash and just spill out all of the spew emotions in my head, because if I'm not anchored around protein, if I don't even have enough energy, carbs for me and what I have to function in life, I feel like I can be Mrs. Dull Brain around the house. Like, just kind of like, I don't know, I'm just not the heart of the happy home anymore. So yes, for performance is in not just the gym, it's in every area. And thirdly, it's pleasure. Thirdly, there's 2%. I said 98% like that, because there's 2% where I'm just like, hey, it's Saturday night. I've had enough protein today, so I'm not going to worry about what I have while I'm watching a family movie. It's going to be popcorn and nutritional yeast. Like, there ain't no body composition thought going into it. I don't care. It's 2%. And maybe somebody would like to do 80-20.
So you're saying 2% of all your meals are pretty much, you don't even think about body comp. It's just like throw them to the wind.
I don't think about performance. I don't think of anything. I don't have to think of nutrition, because nutrition comes into play of those two things, because you can't have body composition or performance without proper nutrition. But people might want to do the 80-20. They could go to a 20%. I wouldn't go lower than that. But I think that's so
But you're still not saying, as you sit here, Because you're a different person. You're
Yeah.
not saying 20% completely non-foods, those ones
No,
we were
I don't-
talking
I'm
about
not
at the
even
gas
talking
station.
about non-food.
You're talking about 20% not thinking about body comp. We're just having, I'm not thinking about protein. I'm just having whatever I want, which is
Like,
pretty,
I
still
don't
food.
care if you guys
Yeah.
choose 2%. You guys listening, that's chemical cocktail, not even food.
Yeah, and-
you want to have the diet Dr. Pepper, 2%
Yeah.
in your whole scheme of things. Well, you do you.
It's
You
the
know?
Coca-Cola for Danny. It's the Dunkin' Donut
Yes,
for me.
if you want to have a Cinnabon on Christmas
Yeah.
morning, Pearl, you do you.
Right.
I call that the 2%.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a handful of times, maybe both hands, 10 little fingers of 365 days a year. You get 10 times to just be a moron. Okay?
But I'm not a moron when I choose those times.
No,
I'm
no.
doing vitamin P.
Yeah, you're
Yes.
doing vitamin P, but it's still vitamin P knowing
Yeah.
that
Knowing-
there is moron
Knowing there's
neurons
trans
going
fats
on.
and seed oils
Yeah.
and industrialized sugars.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all of that.
Yeah, you're having to turn your brain. So you are being a moron because you're having to turn all you know off so you can have vitamin P.
Yeah, I'm not being a moron, but that's not the whole thing of this party. Yeah.
Okay, so the 98 other percent, Dan,
Go ahead.
Yeah, put the jolly can down, Dan.
the 98%, it's all whole foods, but you don't have to think about what's it doing for me. You just know it came from the earth, like Dan says, I eat from the earth. You know,
I
it's
eat
just
earth foods, yeah.
Earth foods. You know, whether it just walks along the earth like a cow or if it comes out like a carrot from the soil, it's earth foods. 98%. But out of that, you can take like an 18% now, because that's what you've got, to just not even think about the intelligence of the fuel, but you're eating healthy food. But people, pleasure does not have to be part of that 80% and down. I mean, it will come, because what I'm saying is when you put pleasure at the first tick, I feel like you don't get lasting contentment in your life. You don't get real pleasure, the pleasure that's there for the long haul. You get this fleeting shadow of almost like a mirage of pleasure. Ooh, that's going to taste good for 5 minutes. Oftentimes it gets hit hard really quick with a stomach ache, or like I'm feeling shame, or even if you're not going to do that, you know,
I feel like if pleasure is number one, Serene, pleasure in your life
Don't go to other subjects yet, Pearl.
will probably come last. I'm saying if
Yeah.
pleasure is your number one, there won't be no pleasure, real true pleasure.
Yeah. It's only pleasure for while you're eating.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. But pleasure doesn't even end up being on the podium
Yeah.
at the end.
Yeah.
And you definitely, because what on earth?
It was a round circle of a hair that had twisted into a loop. You trust me, you're going to love me for that.
Oh, okay. And so I was having this epiphany the other day, Sunday morning. I was in my car.
Yeah.
I was running out to do this hike. I did not want to eat. It was 7:45. I didn't want to eat. It's Sunday morning. A Sunday morning breakfast should be around 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, I don't even feel hungry. But I knew I was about to go on an hour hike. 3 of those hills I'm going to sprint up. I knew I needed something in there. I needed to think intelligently. So I thought if I was going to eat anything, I would just like to eat some kind of like dry crust of bread with some grass-fed butter on it.
Yeah.
Just be a moron. and
That
run
was
out.
your pleasure, right?
Yes. But in my head, I'm like, no, I need to make a protein smoothie. I need protein, and I need probably some more carbs than my sourdough crust that's probably going to give me 5 grams of carbs. Like, I need a banana and some raw milk or something with some whey protein. For me, my body type. And so as I was chugging it down and not even feeling like it, not even really enjoying it, as I was chugging it down, I'm like, boy, I'm glad that I am not just subject to pleasure, because I wouldn't have been ready for that walk. I know that the meal, when I come back, I'm going to have a recovery meal. And I'm so glad I'm not just run by pleasure, because what I really wanted when I came in the door was just to sit down and have coffee alone, only. No food. Coffee, sit down with husband. No protein, no, feeding back the glycogen after the hill sprints and all that. And I thought to myself, I just realized to myself that pleasure doesn't even factor in for me 98% of the time. it doesn't even factor in, but it's brought so much pleasure in my life because I think of it more like my body, like a machine. Okay, so when people run a machine, they have to think intelligently about it. What is going to be best for this machine? How does this machine run the smoothest? How can I get the longest, life out of this machine? How's it all gonna work? You don't just think from the taste buds, right? And so I wanted to challenge us here today, because I had a little conversation with my husband the other day. He'll hate that I'm saying this, but he's really into health these days, and he's in the gym. He's doing such a great job, and I just want to bless him and praise him. But he still is in the mindset, like I made him one meal, and he didn't really love it. But I'm like, too bad, it's all we got in this. I need to go grocery shopping. But you've got your protein, you've got your carbs, the macronutrients are all thought out. It's going to be great for your body. It's gonna fuel you great. And he's like, but I don't like it. And I'm like, well, too bad. That's a joke. I'm really sounding empowered, aren't I?
Yeah.
I was half in a joking, voice, but I'm like, does it always have to be pleasure to eat? And he's like, yeah, I don't want to waste a meal on something I don't enjoy. And it got me thinking, because I can tell you guys, but I can't tell him.
Yeah, right.
It got me thinking, where is pleasure on our list as far as food is concerned? Because, Pearl, I shoot for pleasure in every meal.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to taste good. But will you finish something even if you're like, you've got your certain ounces of protein and you're like, I don't really feel like it. I really just want to go back for second helpings of potatoes. But
If I was eating for pleasure, it would probably just be bread and butter at most meals. I love bread and butter.
Yeah.
Hard to beat bread and butter.
That I would go home now. Like we'll finish this podcast. It will be afternoon snack time.
Mm-hmm.
What would be pleasure for me would be getting Ezekiel toast, super healthy. That's a real food. Piling it with butter, not caring about the protein.
Add some really nice cheddar cheese.
Having 3 pieces. Just that would be it for me. Healthy food, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But is it wisely, intelligently fueling my body? No. So I'm not going to do that. So I think on the occasion, I'll just do that because we got to live.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not going to do that. So I don't run my life by pleasure, but I have found super pleasurable protein meals that do both.
But sometimes, Pearl and Dan, do you necessarily feel like it at the beginning? When I sit down to finally having it, we're like, oh yeah, I'm glad I made that choice. I'm glad I just got stuck into making that thing I knew I needed, and didn't listen to the voice that said, oh, just grab a couple of tablespoons of peanut butter from the fridge and just slap it on some toast.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's just in life, you just want what's quick and what you're really just craving. You don't really, but when you're actually sitting down to the meal, you're like, oh, good choice. And I'm actually having pleasure in this. But the thoughts prior to that sometimes are all weird thoughts. And they're not usually for what's good for body composition and what's good for performance. And
What
so
about you, Dan?
What's the question?
Is do you let your brain and do you let your meal decisions be run by firstly pleasure?
Well, I have a secret weapon named Lisa.
Yes.
And because we're working out together, we're both in that mindset of like protein centric. I think without saying we're thinking about body composition and goals and things, I think we were subconsciously just already doing that. So typically I'm thinking of like workout goals when I'm thinking about food always now. And I think that's one of the side effects of weight training.
It forces you to, because otherwise your weight training is going to be
you don't want to waste it.
Doesn't it feel like a job? I was talking to Esther because she was on the phone when I was running through this.
Esther, your daughter-in-law.
Yes, sorry. As I was talking to Pearl, just running this through quickly.
What would you do without me?
We would be lost souls.
Esther was like,
ships at sea.
When I got off the phone, Esther was like, Arden is so about his performance now to gain muscle back, and especially after the fight with cancer. Your muscle is your immune system, and he's like, he chugs this like
disgusting
12 dozen egg Gaston like protein shake in the morning.
I couldn't do that.
Like she said he almost gags every time. He does it for performance. He does it because he has a goal in mind. He does it because his body is now his machine.
Yes.
And so it's so interesting. I love how your brainwave is saying, that you think about it now for your goals, not
I'm just
just
going to
for
fix your skirt too.
Oh,
I'll fix
my
your hair. I'll
goodness.
fix your skirt.
Oh my
You should
goodness.
safety pin them so you stay modest for our mother. You know that she watches this podcast
It's over the knee.
and she loves your skirt over the knee. Just think of mother.
So,
of mother.
but you know, our society does not train us
No,
for
it
performance
doesn't.
or fuel.
No.
Because
Trains us in pleasure.
because children are like, they have to have their little children's menu, because even an adult's menu, and most things that are served at restaurants aren't even food anymore. The bread rolls are not the staff of life, believe me, you know, and half of the fats and things are fried in their margarine. Like some restaurants I refuse to go because I've asked them, and they're like, they only cook in margarine.
Okay, but you were doing super well until you said that. And now it just seems impossible to live your life.
No,
so
don't worry.
Rewind. She
No,
didn't say that.
No, because I actually went, remember I asked them, I said, I'm sure you've got olive oil for salad.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, just cook my salmon in olive oil. They did it for me. But if you don't want to be a weirder like me, you chalk that up to your 20%.
Yeah,
Chalk
right.
it up
As
to your
opposed
20%.
to canola oil? Is that's
No,
when
they
you say
do
margarine?
margarine. It's like that.
Which is
it's
worse.
the Crisco. It's the solid vegetable, hydrogenated,
Okay.
you know,
Waffle
radical
House, I think,
fats.
does canola oil.
that's bad too.
Yeah.
It's a seed oil. And we
I,
love
you know,
seed
when
oils
I
that
go
are
to Waffle
protected,
House,
but-
because I love potatoes in my stage of life. I don't overdo them, but I love potatoes. Waffle House will do a steamed hash brown if you ask
Oh,
them.
that's
They
nice.
will
Okay.
not. They do the special thing. They put a lid on it instead of flooding it with their canola oil. They just steam them. But
Yeah.
you have to get a nice Waffle House.
Don't you love the
And
people?
don't do
of-
it in Mexico.
Yeah, but yes, I do love.
Don't
the
you
people
love the
that
Waffle House people?
Yes, I love them more.
You know, a
than
couple of them were
anybody.
like prison work release. It's like fine. You can tell
Oh, but they're the best.
they're so
the-
sweet. They're like, baby, what can we get you?
Yeah,
You want
baby.
some coffee?
Yeah.
You want this? What else? They're so like taking care. They're so.
Oh,
They
I
are.
feel
They're so
nurtured.
sweet.
I feel like I would like breastfed from
But
my
the reason
mother.
why I said don't do it in Mexico is
Okay.
because they've got to speak English. Because remember on our trips, I go and I don't want you can see in that hot sun, like we like to have the outside eating
Yeah.
places in Mexico, and there's that like clear plastic bottle of vegetable oil that's been used over and over and over that they put on the griddle first, you know. And I'd always see that and think, oh, I don't want that on my omelet. So I would say, what is small
sin.
pico?
She would say
No, I'd say pico. Little,
no. You would say
little.
sin or pico. Sin
Yeah.
means no, right? Oh, I don't know.
Dan,
Without.
you are your.
He's not
you-
helping. You just let her go.
You
he's
are
like,
the
I'm gonna let her
Mexican in the
go.
room, and you would say sin oil or pico oil, and they would just hear oil.
Look,
and
today of
flood
all
it with the
days, he
canola oil.
decides not to be the Mexican in the room.
I know he's
just
being,
today.
He's being politically correct. Anyway, as we move on, you know, children have these.
He's deciding to let you be a racist just today, but the other days he won't.
Children have these special menus, right? Because we're training them to be driven by pleasure. Do you know half the children don't even have taste buds for vegetables anymore? It's the texture is weird and this is weird, and they're like, okay, darling, you don't like it? Well, then you don't have to have it, or we'll hide it, or we'll whatever. But I feel like we
agree.
need to train the younger generation in the fact that, guess what? Pleasure is going to come. And if you get to enjoy your food, fantastic. Maybe you won't enjoy it at every meal. That's life,
Yeah.
right? You got to get with the picture. But the pleasure that you're really seeking is the feeling in your body as you walk around life, feeling alive and feeling like you're rocking a great body composition. And I do want to extend it to a
Can
different
I say
larger view.
something? And I agree. I raise my, you raise your children in the way they should go. Doesn't mean they'll always go that way.
It doesn't matter. You've given them
No,
a...
but I raised my children like that. Like you didn't have to finish everything on your plate because sometimes you're not that hungry,
No, that's
but you
fine.
had to enjoy, had to eat some vegetables and things like that. Like they didn't get just to eat what they wanted because there's 5 children and you're not always going to get what you want.
Yeah.
Some, it might be another person's turn.
Yes. No, I love
But,
that.
some of my children are very all about eating for fuel goals and stuff like that. But my noble, and he won't mind me saying this, wasn't raised that way, but he only understands pleasure for eating. I
Yeah.
mean,
But
I just shall
wait
keep
till he's
praying for
50
you.
something.
Praying for you, noble.
Wait till he's 50 something with a big football beer pot,
Yeah.
It's like they don't do sports anymore. They watch sports and they have that, the retired coach physique. Wait till he gets his own wake-up call.
I know,
Some
you
men
can't
need that.
force it on him.
Yeah.
He's his own man.
Yeah.
But I was just saying, we can raise our children like that and they still might learn.
But I feel
Pleasure.
bad that I talked about my husband
I
like
just
this on
talked
the
about my
potty.
son.
No, but listen, my husband eats so many things just because they're great for him. I agree. It was just that one time I was like, you know.
Oh, my husband totally eats for pleasure.
But I do want to say this,
Actually,
guys.
he doesn't. He wants my kefir smoothie now in the morning.
See?
For his bowels.
You're so thankful.
He eats for his bowels.
He needs to avoid suffering.
Yes, that's what it is.
That's man stuff
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about this topic from a larger view, because it's not just when we put pleasure first in our relationship with food. It's so much bigger than that. So when we put up pleasure first in our relationship with most things,
Oh.
let's, maybe extend this thought to our relationships. Because, when pleasure is our main focus and our guide in our relationships, then pleasure in those relationships usually ends up last in our life, last on the list. We think it's kind of like that scripture, in the Bible that says, you look to gain your life and you lose it.
Yeah, yeah.
And when you lose your life, that's when you really find it.
Right.
And I was just thinking about it. Okay, not really TMI, because it's not about me personally at all, but I just think women as a whole, there are seasons in their life. Let's just take late perimenopause, menopause, where the libido is maybe lagging for some, not everybody. And it can be like, well, that doesn't bring me pleasure anymore.
Sex,
so
yeah. Well,
because
sex with my husband,
it can be downright painful for some women. So they'll be like, okay, I'm going to try and not involve myself in that at all. I'm going to try and skate out of that whole part of my relationship, because I'm not ticking the pleasure box for me anymore. And I feel like whenever we choose to do something or not to do something with pleasure as the main focus, we lose. We lose out big time, because intimacy in marriage should never be just about ourselves anyway. It's about what it's like food, right? What is it building into life and strength? It's building growth, it's building life. And so, of course, it's building that intimacy and that oneness together. It's so much more than, and that closer experience brings pleasure into a marriage more than just a few fleeting minutes.
right? And we understand if there's like such vaginal atrophy that it's literally painful, but there are things you can do, right?
Yeah, but instead of just skating out of it, it could be like, I need to go and get help.
Right,
That's what I'm
right.
trying to say.
But sex itself, we think, well, just do it for the man, but that's not what you're saying.
I'm
do
not
it
saying
for
that.
yourself. It's so
Well, I
immune
actually
building.
am saying that.
Yeah, both.
I'm saying that
You're
because
saying
I think
both.
you lose your life, you find it. I think there's so much pleasure that comes to you when you give
But it's
yourself
like
away.
food too. If you're just eating for pleasure, that you're not necessarily getting all the health benefits. Covenant sex is one of the biggest health boosters in the world.
Exactly. And it builds that long-lasting pleasure.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, just because it may not be pleasurable for you, something anymore,
Yeah.
and we're going to talk about it later with exercise, like you may
Yeah.
not find any pleasure in it, and other things I'm going to go into. It doesn't matter. There is a lasting pleasure. There is something greater that it's building in. And we can, it's also in premenopause and the nursing woman, right? That it's just their sex hormones go down because their lactation hormones go up. Their prolactin, oxytocin. Oxytocin can help a little bit with intimacy, but their prolactin really kind of puts a damper on the estrogen, right? And your
And the
libido and the
testosterone,
time,
yeah.
right? And so a lot of women can be like, well, it's just, I feel overtouched all day long with my children and nursing baby, and that's the last thing I want to do. So it's not bringing pleasure to me. It's the last thing that I want to do. I want to go take a long bath by myself. Thank you very much, right?
And that's good too.
No,
right.
nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that. But I'm saying we can't have, is this going to tick my pleasure box as something, whether we engage or not engage in things in life? Like, just because a vegetable may not tick your pleasure box doesn't mean you shouldn't say, I need to have this in my diet
a big
somewhere.
one is salmon.
Yes.
I don't like salmon. I won't eat it.
You're saying other people say that.
Yeah, no, I love it.
Yeah.
But there was a point in my life where I didn't love it.
Yeah.
And I know, like we're saying, we're not doing big rulesies, bang you on the head here, but it's so often. But salmon's like one of the healthiest foods you can eat. There are ways to love it.
It's not actually healthy to just be a beefer.
Yeah. I only like beef, or I only like chicken. But you're compromising your health because there's nutrients you're not receiving from other healthy foods.
And especially anti-inflammatory nutrients that you need as you age.
Yeah.
I know. And that's why I'm here challenging it. I'm not like putting a big rulesy. And that's why I did this big preface before I started. I'm a foodie. I'm all about pleasure in life in every area. But I feel like we have to be bigger than pleasure. And that's when we really get the real fruit and the real harvest of
And the
true
real
pleasure.
pleasure. Yeah. So
True, lasting pleasure. And so I want to talk about too,
Did you go into the sex thing though?
fully.
Meaning if it's sex for pleasure, just pleasure, sex outside of a covenant. When it's just a bit like the non-foods, like at the gas station. I'm not
Well, I was actually only thinking sex
Sex.
and marriage because that's how I thought. That was my brain space. But yeah, let's go there.
like if we put pleasure first
Yes.
in all areas, like there's the food. If pleasure first, can go into a gas station. I can choose from any of those non-foods, right?
Yeah.
And they will give my taste buds pleasure, my brain a shot
Yeah.
of pleasure because but it's not the way food should be eaten for my body. The way my body was designed.
It's for that dopamine hit,
Yeah.
right? But it's not true, lasting, healthy dopamine that knows how to keep surging in the right times.
Yes, but we were
'Cause you
made for
actually can get
pleasure, right?
depressed.
So I can get pleasure from healthy food.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm creative that way. So we were created for pleasure. We were created for sex. We're sexual beings.
Yeah.
But there's healthy sex, and then
Yeah.
there's sex that's destructive outside of covenant.
Well, there's sex like food that actually builds life
Yes.
inside of you
Yeah.
and your relationships.
Yes.
And then there's sex that destroys.
Yeah, and if it's just about pleasure, it can be sex that destroys because that means I could take that outside of a covenant. I could take it here. I could take it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. No, I just think it's such a powerful thing to make sure that pleasure is never the first
Yeah.
thing we tick.
My single friends
Yeah.
tell me tales from the frontier.
Right.
Yeah.
I've got single friends now in their mid 40s.
Okay.
And times have changed
Yeah.
since we were single.
Right.
The internet has created a whole generation of absolute chaos sexually.
Really.
And you've heard of hookup culture.
Yeah, heard of it.
My single friends are telling me, like, these women they're meeting within a couple hours of the first date are one texting them their home address and
Yeah.
saying, would love you to swing by tonight. Well, what does that mean when a single woman texts you her home address and says, would love you to swing by tonight?
Yeah. How does that translate as intimacy?
Yeah, and my friends aren't like, some of them aren't even like believers or anything. They have standards, you know, and they're like, dude, I don't, like, you would think a male in his single and in mid 40s would be like on my way.
Yeah.
And they're not that. I'm very glad that they're not that way. And but they, you know, it's very, like, it's still hard to find a woman of virtue, you know. And you know, I always thought that the men were like the ones that are quicker to sleep around, but they're telling me it's the women. The women don't even value their bodies. They're exchanging the companionship and security. They'll trade their body for that. And what they're doing is trying to get it today. They want that feeling today, that secure, not the pleasure, the security feeling.
Yeah.
I have a strong man taking care of me, or whatever it is. Not knowing that they're actually sabotaging it long term.
Right.
And so these things, you know, it may feel like, oh, we're not old fashioned, we're brave now. But really what it is that you think you're being brave, you think you're being more open and not so dogmatic. But in actuality, the word is selfish. You're trying to feed the self and soothe the self and give the self immediate pleasure that leads to long-term depression.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
It
I love-
does,
I
because we're
love-
not created for it
Yeah.
outside of the covenant.
No, exactly. And, you know, let's just take the sexual whole thing out of it. What about our service in other ways to a family and those around us, right? If we're led by pleasure as our first guide, how many of us really feel like, you know, sometimes you're like, oh, I need to go talk to that person, or that they're standing alone. Nobody else is really talking to them. Sometimes it's like, yeah, but I don't really feel like it's going to be a great connect. I don't even think I really gel with their personality or whatever. But sometimes you got to go outside of yourself, outside of pleasure as your first thing, to be able to go and minister, not in a religious way, but just to actually serve and honor a fellow human being, right? We can't have pleasure as our first guide. And that, since when do we feel like getting up and and on a Saturday morning maybe, and going help somebody move a house.
Yeah.
Got to be there at their driveway at 6:30 in the morning or whatever, and help. If pleasure is our only guide, we'll never be that friend that or become friends or have relationships that have any beauty or deep, beautiful, just a depth of friendship and a depth of soul relationship. If we just are guided by pleasures, we'll be the friend that just never is the real friend.
The flake, yeah.
The flake. We'll be the flake instead of the friend. Or even just do we really always feel like getting up and going to church on a Sunday morning? And that sounds religious. A lot of people are believers and they don't necessarily go to church. But I feel like what kind of example are we showing to the next generation when in many of these areas in life, what if we were only led by pleasure? We'd be such selfless people. We would end up being like the Scrooge on the that Christmas. Is it called A Christmas Tale? Is that what it's called?
It's called
Christmas
Scrooge?
Story?
The Christmas Story.
Oh, wait, you're talking about
the Scrooge?
With Scrooge?
With the Mahler
That's
guy.
a Christmas Carol,
Christmas
right?
Carol.
Christmas
Yeah,
Carol.
yeah.
He was, everything was for himself.
Yeah.
Everything, and he had no friends in the end. He had nothing, and he was like the depressed, most alone individual you can imagine.
He had everything he
because
wanted.
everything was about ticking
Yeah.
his pleasure off, and in the end, he had none. And so, I just think that it extends to everything. It's not just food. And then let's go to exercise now, back to a practical point, seeing it's a practical, we like to be practical on these podcasts about our health. How many workouts do you get the pleasure feelings at the beginning? Like the yearning to work out?
Zero.
How many?
Never.
Never. Occasionally it might come, like just especially if you've been out for a while and you recovered from an injury and you're kind of like beating to get back in.
It comes to walk towards the gym. When you get to the gym, it goes away.
Yes.
I get it to walk towards the gym every time.
But when-
I'm like, ooh, it's time to work out. I open that door and I look at the weights and I'm like,
Yeah, you're intimidated, right? It's like, oh, you almost get that nervous adrenaline, right?
Daddy want passy.
Daddy want passy.
But it's so true, right? But all three of us here, right, we're contending for fantastic aging. We're contending for a long-lasting pleasure and contentment so that when we walk around in our other activities in our life, when we get out of that gym, pleasure comes because we feel strong in our bodies. Our posture is more strong. I feel more strong mentally. I feel more strong emotionally. And it brings pleasure to my existence than if I was going to say, oh, I just feel like staying in my jammies and having another cup of coffee and just having a book day today on the couch, or I just want to cozy up and do my emails or just whatever.
It helps to do it pre-lunch for me.
Yeah.
'Cause right after coffee, use that coffee kick. Because to me, that's the easiest time to work out.
I'm having to do it post-potty, guys. I'm going back in the
seriously?
gym. And I've been thinking about it for these.
That's tough.
We've been doing double potties here today recording. It's
Yeah.
in my mind.
Why
It's not
didn't you
a lot of-
you were too busy this morning?
Yeah, I was too busy this morning. I had Grandy's over. It was a great morning. And I just wanted to not be run by exercise either. So I've been trying to replace it around.
I mean, afternoon's second best, but these night people,
I've
Where
had
But
to
if
do
that's
it.
their only time,
I've had to do it
kudos to
lately.
them.
Great.
I've had to do it around 7 lately.
oh, is
But
it so hard?
Yes,
at
it's
night?
so
Ooh, that's
hard. But
hard.
when you go to bed and you're like, oh my goodness, I feel great.
Yeah.
So all I'm trying to say is, people, the things that bring us fantastic harvest in our life of pleasure. I'm talking about pleasure. Don't you feel great, Pearl, as a strong woman?
I feel too good.
And it's not about the muscle. Don't you feel
No.
just like you show up in life just more happy and confident?
yes.
Yes. But pleasure, you didn't factor your pleasure in when you walk into that exercise room, right? Because it feels like misery most of the time.
It's tough. It's
Hey,
tough to get in
something
there and
else-
start.
Something else for me as an actor, I don't audition shirtless, right?
Yeah.
Fortunate for
Some
them.
of your friends probably do, who are the shirtless
yeah.
guys. Are you heading towards that goal?
I may give me a year. I may be there. I might be on the next little Calvin Klein Walmart shelf.
You could be.
I actually, that's a goal of mine.
Really?
For the comedy of it. I want my friends to walk through Walmart shopping for their tighties and to look over and see old Dan there just like smiling into the night, looking into the distance, just like, and I'm in my skivs, I think that'd be a good April Fool's prank for the year. I actually want to get it for content. But where were we?
I don't know.
Yeah,
It went
I'm
to
just wondering
Walmart.
what Mrs. V
It
is thinking
went
about
to Walmart.
Hold
Calvin
on.
got Mrs. V would never allowed him to go on your skiffs.
No, she doesn't like stuff
no,
like that.
she doesn't.
Yeah.
No.
But
But
thankfully, she doesn't watch the show. No, she does. She watches every show. And we discussed the themes.
I know.
But what I was going to say is that I don't audition shirtless.
Yeah.
But you look different in the shirt. And it does book you more. And so for me, I have a huge motivator to get as right as I can, because they just, even if it's subconscious, there's casting directors going, we'll go with that. Or I'll make the top 3 and then maybe make it fully in. But, even if you're not auditioning and stuff, there's other areas.
Life's an audition.
Yeah, exactly.
is.
And what happens is you get favor with people. People just tend to favor you at the bank, at the post op, wherever you're going. You get more yeses in life.
And I love the word that you brought, motivation. It's a powerful word. And I think I'm challenging us today. And that was the epiphany I had in the car last Sunday morning, was let your motivation for food not be pleasure. Let pleasure show up as the harvest. It's
Yeah.
going to be there.
That's a great way to put
And
it.
you can try and make things as yummy as possible. Yeah, sure. Fantastic. And then, like I said, 20% of your life, just go for the pleasure. That's great when it comes to food. But let your motivation be so much more.
Mm-hmm.
Let it be so much more, people. So I don't want to hear this guy, well, kefir's too sour. I just hate sour. I'm not a sour girl. It's just too sour. Who cares? Eat sweet later.
Yeah.
Put
Yeah.
your Jolly Gentle sweet in all your baking and just be the sweet girl and go and stuff your face with it.
I had an
but
old
have
man-
a sour thing and chug it down your throat, because you were motivated with so much more than just your taste buds.
When I was 18, I was the skinniest girl alive, and I had this old man friend. He was in his 70s. His name's Paul Merle. He's like a father figure to me. I spoke at his funeral and boo-hooed for an hour during the speech, and it was hard. But he would always say, "Get it down, son," when it was time to eat. Because I would eat these little bird portions.
Yeah.
And I would be like, "I'm full, I can't eat." And he'd go, "Get it down, son." And I would take a couple extra bites for him. And I remember it was difficult. But and I never gave, I was way too anxious at the time. Had background anxiety that I never knew about. PTSD, undiagnosed. Couldn't eat anything, and didn't know why. Just thought I had a small appetite. And but later in life, those little seeds, like I never forgot that. In times when I'm like,
Yeah.
chicken and rice again,
Yeah.
I'll hear that voice, "Get it down, son."
I love it.
I love that.
Just get it down.
Get your kefir down.
Yeah, get it down.
Like,
That's what I
yeah.
heard when you were talking about kefir.
I
Yeah.
made these. This is a good thing because it's kind of ministering to me right now. I made these lactation cookies for my daughter-in-law Megan, who's got a newborn. And
Lactation cookies?
Good milk supply, though.
yeah, she's got a great milk supply.
Wait,
but
what
it's
are
not my
lactation cookies?
ministry.
Didn't know
whether I had
I
to put
just
her on the prayer
No,
list.
that baby's getting fat and she's got so much milk. But I just do lactation cookies. It's my love language.
What is that? What does that mean?
Well, it's like because coconut's so good for the MCTs in milk, and then oats replenish milk supply. So they are basically like no-bake cookies, but super healthy.
Like
So
oatmeal
they've got
no-bakes.
coconut shredded, unsweetened. They've got unsweetened shredded coconut plus oats. And then they've got peanut butter, gentle sweet, honey, peanut
Dang.
flour, and they've got a coconut
Are you
oil
bringing them to the
plus
next
coconut
podcast?
oil.
To set
No.
right there?
What else?
You need
So
some milk?
anyway, it's just they're delicious. Oh my goodness! Like I don't need lactation, but I need those cookies. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, you need.
So I made a bunch for Megan,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
put a few for myself
Yes.
in
Oh,
a
yes.
baggie.
Yeah.
Where are
Now
they?
they're
they in
they're
that
in my
purse?
freezer. No, they're in my freezer. So I thought to myself, I'm getting really hungry because we've
Yeah.
done 2 parties.
Yeah, you're thinking about
So pleasure, and even though they're so healthy, they're not like super rich in protein. Pleasure wants me to go home and scarf them and just like not have my cottage cheese
Yeah.
first. You know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's my pleasure, but it's not really what my body needs, right? It will be super vitamin P pleasure and it's super healthy, but it's not going to do anything for my lean body mass because there's a little bit of peanut flour in there,
Yeah.
but nothing.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to go home and have cottage cheese, and then I'm going to have
Yeah.
one.
Well, maybe
Yes.
we can all swing by and
Yeah,
just
you
make
can
sure
swing by.
everything's.
And so this is kind of like I said, there's that 2% where you turn your brain off.
Yeah.
Like during the week, I always have to eat a little something before I go to bed. It's my body metabolism. I don't sleep well when I just go to bed having nothing since dinner because I don't know. I can't sleep. It's
You've
like
got a lot of lean body
so
mass.
anyway,
I'm the same way.
But I have to think, here is another opportunity right now, my pre-meal fueling, pre-sleep fueling. I have another opportunity to feed my muscles so that I can have muscle growth throughout the night because I'm putting the time in the gym. Intelligence says, hey, make another opportunity for muscle growth. So I've ordered this wonderful organic grass-fed chocolate-flavored casein.
You go
and-
back and forth on ordering that casein,
What's
don't
case-
you?
what is
Well, I've
casein?
changed brands and I like
Oh,
it.
okay.
I always picture the thing that holds the sausage.
And it's really not my favorite
Oh, that's
protein.
casein with a G. Casein is the
EIN.
protein, like in cottage
It's slow
cheese and-
digesting and it actually
really good
doesn't
before
disrupt
bed.
sleep. It actually can promote sleep. So a lot of times you eat a meal before bed and you can disrupt sleep.
Yeah.
What about essentials?
But essential's great and fine, but it doesn't give me my passy. I need fullness in my
Yeah,
stomach.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
I
it's got
need
no
fullness.
calories, basically.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, I will take essential sometimes when I'm a rare occasion I'm not hungry, but I just want to have some protein before bed. But anyway, I take my casein. It's not my favorite protein. It's my least favorite protein because it's thick.
Oh.
But it's filling.
It thickens and you don't have a lot of room before bed. I like just a little snack and to add enough water to make it thin. You're, you know,
You need to
and I
coat
don't
the
want to
stomach.
go to bed bloated.
No.
So anyway, so I think to myself, I'm just doing one for the team. Pull it like for the team, my muscle team. Doing one for you guys. Cheers. And I have it 5 nights a week. I will do my
Wow.
casein. I don't enjoy it.
Wow.
Sometimes I will go at my last mouthful.
Really?
But I
Makes me
do
not
it,
wanna
mate,
do it.
because what is my goal? What is my motivation? So much more than taste buds alone. There's so many things I eat during the day that I enjoy.
Yeah.
So what's the prob,
Just
Serene?
get down to business.
Two
just-
nights a week, then you have
Yeah.
something you want.
Just
Let's
get it
get
down.
down,
But
let's
on the
get down
weekends, I
business.
don't have that casein. I'll have something yummy like you described, like coconut oil, honey, little cookie thingies
Yeah.
that are no bake superfood fridge yummies.
Yes.
Or I'll just have bread and butter and I won't even care about protein.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
see what I'm saying? I'm not saying don't ever think pleasure. I'm saying weekdays, you're about getting life done, getting work done, being efficient, having goals, making your dreams happen. Don't utilize the tool of fueling because it's not for pleasure. It's a tool. It's a power tool.
Very wise, Serene. I think we all needed this. Not to be led by pleasure in our eating like little babies.
Sometimes I just want to have the salad. I hate tuna. Don't put it in, Serene. Don't put it in. You'll hate it. It'll be fishy.
Oh, yeah.
Like I can do tuna like you do in a sandwich when you disguise it with hummus and your little things that you make. But putting tuna in a salad usually wrecks the salad for me. Some people love it. For me, if I haven't thawed the chicken and grilled chicken, I don't know what protein to have in. I don't really like eggs in it, blah, 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 blah. Sometimes who cares? Put the protein in the salad and get it down.
Yeah, and then you feel great
And I
afterwards.
feel great afterwards.
Sometimes I really don't want tuna in my nighttime salad, and then it turns out to be the best salad I ever had.
Yes.
Just the way you do it.
Yeah.
I feel like if I put tuna in my nighttime salad, I need a good oil in there.
Yes. Yes.
You can do salad at night.
I do salads at night. That's when I have my salads, nighttime, because I'm too rushed in the day to take the good time a salad
I
needs.
tend to do.
But I always have a hot protein on it. That's my trick. Salad at night in my bed of luscious greens, and then the hot protein. And I'll always do it. I'll always bless myself with the nuts and the goat cheese and the things.
Yeah, man. Whole Foods has the best salads. I don't know if it's that their salad is best. It's that they have all the toppings.
The Whole
from
Food buffets,
the
yeah.
peas to the
Yeah.
the feta cheese,
Yeah.
and
And everything's
it's-
there.
Hey, are
and
you
ready.
still
there.
doing your Ubering and taking your money and going to Whole Foods?
I haven't Ubered in a while because of that. It's like I make $30 and I go spend every dollar at Whole Foods. I'm like, yeah, I'll get a $20 meal. I don't know who that's for anymore. And then I'll get a $12 case of Topo Chico.
Yeah.
And I've spent I Ubered to spend $2 that day.
Yes. But just crisping it up again. We're 48 minutes in and I just want to crisp it another way.
Yeah,
Like
you
how many
crisp.
ways can I crisp it? The opportunity to eat brings so much opportunity. That's profound, guys.
Going
Could
on
you
a coffee
just-
mug.
Would you just shut your eyes and think about that?
Well, you need to explain it to me.
Opportunity to eat. People, Pearl, Dan, the opportunity, and it happens 4 times a day. If you're me, it happens 5.
Yes.
But for most people, it
4.
could happen 3 to 4 times a day. The opportunity to eat.
I'm so hungry.
Let that opportunity provide opportunities.
Ooh. Oh, I get it now. I didn't get it till then.
Otherwise, it's just let it.
You're saying
go.
provide opportunities for your life.
Yes, like basically.
Whoa.
Otherwise, you're just twirling it around your taste buds and letting it all those chemicals exit out of your exit trapdoor, and you're not thinking about any of the opportunities in between that could bless your life.
The old trapdoor.
You know, and guess what? Only half of those chemicals are coming out, baby.
Yeah, half of them.
And guess what? Not only, and it's only one type of opportunity. Your singing is epic.
Tell us
There's only
about it.
one type of opportunity.
What kind is it now?
That's talking about fantastic aging, contending for muscle mass and all of this body composition, everything. Just one. Because remember, we were thinking about getting jobs. We're thinking about feeling more confident, even in marriage. I think it's important. I think, opportunities and being emotionally stable for your children so you can parent well.
Can you give him a line for a song,
You can't
please?
hit them kids. Not legally.
But guys, think about it. The opportunity to actually age well is huge, because do you know what people are doing when they don't take the opportunity?
Tell us about it now.
They are putting aging on speed dial. They are fast tracking aging. These days, we don't age anymore. We speed dial age. We live accelerated aging lifestyles because we've
At least we
never
do in
thought
Hickman County,
about
Tennessee.
the tool of food.
I need an organ. I want an organ. Imagine me rocking an organ
could.
while y'all just do the podcast and I'm just over here. I mean, how epic would the show be? I'm going to learn organ just for that.
Do it.
Bring in a little keyboard.
You have to have the side little harmonica that's taped onto your mic.
Yeah.
You know?
Like just like a low hum, like until you really bring it.
Hey, but listen, I'm not
don't
done yet, because
you
if
dare
you're Pastor Colin Campbell, you're not done at this point.
No, you're not.
You have
Hold
the
on.
seated altar call. Now you have to have the standing altar.
Stand.
It's
Will you
time
all
to
stand?
boil
All
the
stand.
toast.
We're
And
going to
then-
close
and
in
then
prayer.
this is what you do. You seat, he repeats it. Then you stand. You got to repeat it when you stand, but then you sing. After you sing, it's another time to repeat.
You got to repeat.
And then guess what?
Altar call?
Before you close in the altar call prayer, you have to do the pre-altar call prayer.
Oh, yeah.
You have to prep that.
By then, everyone's starving out of their
Yes,
mind.
so
They
low
think
blood
they feel
sugar.
the Holy Ghost,
But they're dizzy.
but they're crashing.
Anyway, I forgot what I was going to say.
I've been
because you-
delivered. I've been delivered. The hold
huge,
the
people.
devil had on me. He ain't got no more. You've been delivered. Been delivered.
It's so true, though. I feel the altar call power and the anointing of it for everybody listening, because we have been trapped in thinking that we only had to think of food as pleasure. It was such a trap. It was a trap of the
and
enemy.
we've been delivered.
We've been delivered.
You know, he saved a woman I know this close to death. He brought a boy with asthma back his breath.
And if he has done it, he can do it again. That's
He
not
can-
God. He does it again. Woo! Pearl, take it away.
I've been delivered.
Woo!
I've been delivered.
From the pleasure.
The hold the devil had on me. He ain't got no more. I've been delivered. I've been delivered.
I've been delivered.
I've been delivered by the hand of the Lord.
Do you know what my dad would say?
Delivered.
All right.
Our dad would say, stop being sacrilegious,
Hey,
girls.
I'm not. I'm in this.
He
I'm
is.
feeling it. No, he's feeling it.
Feeling it.
Hey, we're done.